Hello, it's Alex Starkey again. I'm back with yet another rant about something people probably don't care about, nor do they want to listen to me rant about. I'm going to continue today with the what I saw today sort of theme of things. Whilst I don't consider myself to have a particularly interesting life, and I personally would describe it as being rather monotonous, today I saw something that was, for lack of a better way to describe it, quite barbaric actually. I was up in one of the big Tesco extras, not too far from me, walking around doing general shopping, and I saw a group of people congregated around the sort of opticians area, reasonably close to there. They were waiting with trolleys and stuff, at the time empty, and I wondered what they were there for, but I carried on with the rest of my shopping. Whilst I was on one of the other aisles, I saw a man who was initially next to me quite literally run over to where I saw the other people congregating. So I followed, just genuinely curious as to why people were running around so frantically in a shop. And what I saw was, if anybody's ever had a home delivery from a supermarket, the pallets they bring things out in, one of those was being loaded out, sort of the staff doors, the stockroom doors, full of reduced things, and people were quite literally. I don't know if anybody's ever seen The Walking Dead. It's a sort of a zombie drama. When a sort of human dies, zombies quite literally crowd around them and just ravage them entirely. And it was genuinely reminiscent of a scene from something like that, a zombie film. People were pushing each other out of the way, borderline punching each other to get to these vegetables and things. Essentially, just reduced fresh produce that they were putting into their baskets without even looking at what was in there. Now, I generally tend to believe that everybody has a sort of voice inside their head that can often be quite judgmental, almost like having a little Nigel Farage sitting on your shoulder, that on first glance, seeing certain things tends to spout a bit of sort of prejudice. And I think everybody's vaguely prejudiced in some way, shape, or form. But after further thought, a lot of the time I disagree with what Mini Nigel Farage has said. But initially, he's always there with some form of sort of racist or offensive, well, vaguely racist or offensive thought. And in this case, a lot of the people gathering around and fighting each other for food did not look like they were sort of not necessarily born in this country. They did look like immigrants, and I believe they were, as not many of them spoke English, and most were Asian. They didn't seem to be particularly westernised people either. Now, you can sit there, as probably a lot of people would, and say, oh, why are they coming to this country? It's not sort of a safe haven. Why are they doing things like that? That's quite a trampy thing to do, which is generally sort of how people seem to regard that sort of thing now. But these weren't people that were smiling about sort of the bargains they've got. A little time later, the fire alarm went off in the shop, and people, before they were all told to leave, they were stashing their baskets in the safest places they could find to make sure nobody would steal these reduced sort of vegetables and things. The fire alarm turned off and everyone was allowed back in, and the bakery doors opened this time. And again, the same thing happened. People got actually even more aggressive, punching each other, grabbing donuts, fresh bread, that sort of thing, shoving them straight in the trolley. And they weren't smiling about the bargains they got. Initially, I perhaps thought that, these are people who just want to save a few sort of quid. They want to get a bargain and feel happy with that sort of thing, which is, if I'm being honest, what I was doing at the time I saw this bloke on the thing. I like looking at a juice aisle, feeling like I've sort of got one over on Tesco and getting something quite cheap. But no, these people, if anything, looked disappointed that they hadn't managed to salvage enough food to support themselves. They were actually quite upset with the amount that some of them had managed to get, because some of them didn't have that much. And it really was sort of quite nasty to see, I thought. I mean, I'm not necessarily from a particularly wealthy background. I've got parents that work very hard and, in my opinion, are massively sort of, well, they're paid an amount that massively underestimates and underrepresents the work that they do. They both work exceptionally hard, and their pay packet doesn't usually reflect that. But by no means would I say I was in a position where I'd have to literally fight somebody to get reduced food. I do it as a sort of a hobby, if anything. I enjoy knowing that I've got a bargain. But these people genuinely seemed gutted that they hadn't got enough to sustain themselves. And it really was quite upsetting to see. Now, everyone has that mini Nigel Farage, but in times like that, I think it's quite difficult to see anything other than just horror, really. It was genuinely not a nice thing to see, and I've come away visibly affected by it. Not in a sort of really sensitive way, because I'm not the sort of person that does that, but it's left a lasting impression on me, to say the least. What I thought was also really horrible was there were two people when the bakery doors opened the second time round and people were grabbing food from there. Um, there was a mother and a son sort of watching, and the mother actually heckled them and called them tramps and things. Um, and obviously these were people that didn't look like they were originally from the UK. And her son actually said something that really was just quite nasty, and quite shocking, if anything. And he said, "Oh, Mum, don't say that too loud. They'll give you a bowler," which some people may laugh off as a bit of sort of light-hearted comedy, but I thought that was just such an ignorant thing to say. On face value, it might look like there's people there being tramps, so to speak, not stealing, sorry, just taking food that is cheap. That might seem like a good thing, sort of a socially acceptable thing to do to most people, but to actually heckle them to their face and say something about Ebola, granted they may be immigrants, but they're not from a country affected by Ebola by the looks of things, and I just thought it was quite strange that this kid seemed to associate anybody with a coloured skin different to him as carrying what is essentially a very deadly disease. And I thought that was really quite nasty. The mum didn't say anything; she actually laughed and just walked off. Then, but I thought that was really nasty. I mean, I don't know. The news channels tend to show a lot about food banks now and that sort of thing. And I watch the news pretty much every night. But nothing has ever sort of got to me on the level that Seeing That Tonight did. I think it's sort of a seeing is believing thing. And I don't know if anybody is sort of friends with or has family who are sort of prejudiced towards migrants and that sort of thing. But well, I'm not saying that the people there tonight were made up exclusively of migrants, because they probably weren't. But if you've got anybody who sort of demonises those in a less fortunate position, I'm not saying go and poor people watch or anything like that, because I genuinely felt so sorry for these people, and they were desperate. But if you know you're going to be somewhere, and that sort of thing is going to happen, just them seeing that surely would change their perspective on that sort of thing, because it really was such a horrible thing to see. I know for me personally, I might see something on TV and it doesn't sort of have much of a profound effect, but seeing that tonight was really quite upsetting. These people were genuinely upset, and in such a bad way that they had to fight each other to get vegetables, which by most people's standards probably don't cost too much anyway. I can't really go on whinging about it for much longer, but yeah, it really wasn't a very nice thing to see. And anybody who's got an opinion that isn't necessarily so PC, I think could really benefit from seeing something like that in person, because I don't think there's any way you can not feel sorry for people who are faced with that position. I can go on moaning about this for the whole night, but I'm assuming people are probably getting bored now, given that I've run over 8.25 minutes just waffling on. Yeah, that's basically all I saw today, but I thought it was something worth mentioning, and really something that wasn't very nice to watch. I'm going to be uploading videos like this fairly frequently. I'm not going to patronise by saying, oh yeah, like, rate, subscribe, that sort of thing, because you know what to do. If you actually enjoyed listening to me, or have even made it this far and not fallen asleep, then you're more than welcome to do that. But I'm not going to sit here and like get down on my hands and knees and beg for that sort of thing. Nor am I going to be one of these ultra cool kids who, oh, follow me if you want, subscribe if you want, I don't really care. Obviously I'd like you to, but that decision is entirely down to you. It will Basically, my channel will consist of more sort of things like this, and to most people that is extremely boring, and I appreciate that. So I'll be very happy if somebody does subscribe, but otherwise, thank you for actually making it this far. Cheers.